Live. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, it's a new month, the very first day of August 2022. Good morning, Uganda. We are very glad and we are truly and indeed happy to be able to start off this new month with you. And again, allow me to welcome you back from the last month and the weekend as well. A lot did happen during the course of July. Some good things, others bad things, others we're still in the gray zone. We don't know how to categorize all that. But I believe that the month of August is already here, so it is time to reinvent ourselves, to reshape ourselves. And for us here on Good Morning Uganda Family, we are always here Monday to Friday to make sure we give you a new and fresh perspective about what is happening, about what is shaping our economy, what is what is shaping our social status, and what is also shaping us as a country. We definitely are here to deliver. My name is Philomena Mastiko. I am joined by Felix Nkunda. I do have Robert Kirabo, Nyonyintono, and Mollen, Kenyena. Again, allow me to welcome you back from the weekend, which I must say was not quite going on so well. At least I know that yesterday we did wake up to such ugly news and information that was coming in from our people from the east who were not exactly having a good Sunday. I must say that the floods that we saw come through and have at least 10 people killed and a lot of property distracted and damaged. I mean, that gives us a different picture of what we are doing to make sure that we are in the safe hands. But we will be discussing that and many more this morning. But first, good morning, Robert.
Good morning to you. Welcome back from the weekend. And of course, Felix and Mollen, I must say, it's really interesting every morning waking up with a full house, a full team. And to our lovely viewers, thank you so much for always being with us. Well, the weekend, in my opinion, like you said, had mixed reactions. We had at least one gold come in, that is in sports, but also the Archbishop of the Anglican Church made a very interesting statement. Yesterday, he was carrying on pastoral inspection of Mengo Archdeaconry, and he said it is time that the attention we've given to the girl child, we give the same attention to the boy child. He said this is why we are having violence in homes, violence, broken families, is because there's so much attention given to the girl child. So much attention is given to the girl child, preparing her for this, teaching her you're going to be a mother, you're going to be a wife one day, but little is done for the boy child. And at the end of the day, the girl child knows what they're supposed to do. The boy child is a problem creator here. So it is time we also front the boy child just we've done with the girl child.
And honestly, I really buy into that, Robert, because these complaints have been coming on board. People who had seen this had actually brought these conversations out there. We are concentrating on one gender, but when we don't concentrate on the other gender, we make the compatibility a little bit complicated, because you cannot find somebody who is well prepared for these institutions called marriage and the other party is no less on the same page with the other one. So I guess he did have a very valid point, and again, it's something we can look into. Good morning, Mollen, how are you doing?
Yes, a very good morning to you, Philomena, and the team here. I want to say good morning to our family out there. Thank you very much for choosing to start the week with us. And yes, there's a lot going on in the country, but also in the aftermath of politics, that is in Sorority, Philomena. The news coming in is that FDC is planning to contest that election results because they feel that it wasn't fair. And of course, they will be going to court for that. Now, there's always a lot happening with the aftermath of elections in this country, and I think it's not the first time that we're seeing such. But we do hope that this is a matter that can be taken on, and people in Soroti can easily, celebrate their victory if that is something that they choose for. But also what is happening in the country, Philomena, is I must talk about the floods in Bali and of course the landslides in Kapchorwa that we did see happening over there. Yes, we know that there has been rains going over that area, but also I think there is now more than ever, government needs to listen. And especially from what the scientists keep saying, these are terrible times. Whatever you're having in terms of weather now is going to go to extreme. And this is what I've been talking about every morning here when we talk about climate variations. There is a lot of extreme weather events that are involved with the rains. We no longer have rains as normal. We no longer have seasons as normal, because if you look at this season, it's more or less a dry season in a lot of areas. But when the rains come in, they're going to be heavy, they're going to be out of line, and that's where we say that government should be listening and at least do the mundane things they should be doing to prevent some of these extremes, like rivers busting their banks. There is a lot we can do to make sure that that doesn't happen anymore, or even rehabilitate people who are close to areas that are likely to have landslides, and that's how we can cope with the changing environment. I do hope that this is a campaign that will now go forward to ensure that our people are safe.
Well, the question actually still remains, Mollen, and again, I believe that this is something that you're going to be telling us much more later on. As Uganda as a country, have we realized that we have made a transition from the normal weather conditions to extreme weather conditions? Because it's no longer the normal sunshine we used to receive back in the day. It's no longer the normal rainfall we used to receive back in the day. Everything is in the extreme limits. But have we come to realization to this? Well, if you want answers to this, Mollen and of course the rest of us will be talking much more about that in Good Morning Uganda. Felix, the man with the glasses, how are you doing this Monday morning?
I'm all right. How are you, Philo?
I'm great. I'm doing fine.
I wonder what not even Robert said to you, that you look beautiful in red and black.
Thank you. Thank you.
Normally it's Robert who picks on the colors, but I
am told these colors trigger you.
Did Robert say that?
Clearly.
Yes, not in a good way. We know Felix as he doesn't. He's not a lovely guy, I should say. He doesn't believe in love.
I feel offended. but anyway, it's good. It's good to be here. It's a Monday. Clearly, there's not going to be nothing like Monday blues because the team is up and in gear of spirits. And of course, the weekend, probably away from the challenges we talked about, the Bududa incidents, the Mbale incidents and the landslides over there. There are quite a number of things that did happen. Robert did mention that we were able at least to pick a medal already from what's going on, the games there in the UK, and definitely also the party animals must have been thrilled on Friday, when we had Savage doing her thing. Of course, the rain is there, but that didn't even stop revealers. Kampala is normally a wash of parties on weekends. Have you noticed? Even up till right now.
Oh, yes.
Like if you bypass Katikati, if you bypass Garden City, trust me, that's when you know that the economy is probably hitting a couple of people, not everyone. But nevertheless, Philo, this week there's a lot of things we expect. There's much to look up to. Among them is the solutions of government towards the people, or what we call the disaster that is going on as well. There's expectation that Parliament will also resume. What business we'll be looking at, we don't know, but also the big man, Chairman Mao, took office.
Oh, yes.
So he started officially Monday, will be starting his work. We await.
Expectations are really high.
Some of us are very excited.
Yes.
And I was discussing with some colleagues who are in opposition, and we had planned that I think the first thing to do is to take to him a list of the political prisoners, the would-be political prisoners, as a check for him to see if he's actually going to be delivering on the scorecard of the expectation of the other people in the opposition. But much more of that, of course, will be giving viewers out there what will be unfolding as, of course, also the week goes on.
Well, there you go. The new Minister of Justice is definitely going to be taking up his office officially, starting official duties. You know, the anxiety that comes with it. I don't know how people actually deal with this, you know, knowing that people really have high expectations and seeing that this is quite a field that has a lot of pending issues, a lot of pending business, and he has to deliver. It's very hard to explain to a Ugandan that you cannot be very effective 100%, because when Ugandans want something, they actually want something.
Absolutely.
So dealing with a mass, dealing with a nation like ours comes with quite a lot of pressures, quite a lot of tension, quite a lot of anxiety. But again, I know that this man is a very smart one. He knows how to deal with whatever is coming his way, and he has strategy. So we are on the lookout to see how this is going to be ending up for him. Well, that and many, many more still coming in as Good Morning Uganda still goes on all the way. But of course, if you missed yesterday's bulletin, definitely be certain that we are here to just give you a review of what took place, especially when it comes to the news desk, what is happening in the country, around you, in your community, in your society. All that is very necessary for you, because right now what you cannot afford to do is go on about your day without knowing all the happenings around you, especially at your very own community level. And that's why we are here this morning. And in this given moment, what are we looking at locally, Robert?
We will begin with the Prime Minister rushing to Mbale following the floods that happened there. The Prime Minister, Robina Nabanja, rushed to Mountain Elgon region to assess the magnitude of the damage caused by the floods from Mountain Elgon, where so far 13 bodies were retrieved. Nabanja, using a police chopper, landed at Maluku grounds in Mbale city at 2:30 p.m. and was received by Mbare RCC Muhammad Waseki and Mbare Industrial City Division Mayor Mohamud Masaba Motenyo.
The Kabaka of Uganda, Ronald Muwenda Mutebi II, has advised government to put assist coffee farmers for fertilizer tax reduction to enable them benefit from coffee crop. Now, Kabaka was speaking during his 29th coronation as the King of Uganda at Mengo Palace. Also, Uganda did celebrate 29 years of Kabaka Ronald Muwenda Mutebi's coronation on the 31st of July, which happened on the 31st of July 1993 at Nagarabi, Buddo. The Kabaka Njagala Road was full of anxious people waiting to glance at their leader as he entered the palace. He arrived at midday to ululations by a mammoth of gathering that had been waiting for him since early morning. The Kabaka also played the drum known as the Mujaguzo, and the Kabaka also did cause advice as prior stated.
And away from the coronation, we now move to the Anglican Church, where the Archbishop Church of Uganda, His Grace Dr. Stephen Samuel Kazimba Mugalu, asked partners to groom the boy child as it is with the girl child. Kazimba, who was on pastoral inspection of Mengo Archdeaconry, said grooming the boy child like the girl child will aid elimination of violence in families, among other vices. Happiness was all over Mengo Archdeaconry as the congregation welcomed the Archbishop of Uganda, His Grace Dr. Samuel Kazimba, for his 5th tour and inspection of God's work in the Archdeaconry. Kazimba, who was accompanied by the Bishop of Namirembe, Wilberforce Choruwaira, Venerable B.K. Wembo from Natete, among others, was welcomed by the Mengo Archdeacon Venerable Canon Isaac Membe Kijambo. In his sermon, Kazimba condemned the growing habit among men and boys of not working, only waiting to get married to rich women. Kazimba also cautioned partners and guardians to equally consider proper upbringing of the boy child, just the way it is with the girl child, to prevent moral decadency that leads to violence in families. The Bishop, Namirembe Cathedral Wilberforce Choruwaira, hailed Dr. Kazimba for his positive endeavors towards the Church of Uganda. The function was also attended by the State Minister for Finance, Planning and Development, Amos Lugorobi, the Mayor of Machindi, Sabagabo Ali Mulyanyama, among other delegates, and there was fundraising for the completion of God's work.
Now, the National Drug Authority Public Relations Officer Frederick Sechana has advised Ugandans countrywide to seek medication for both humans and animals from their practitioners and registered outlets. The National Drug Authority Public Relations Officer Frederick Sechana gave advice at the press conference held at Nyiga Hotel in Kasana, Town Luwero, at the conclusion of a one-week National Drug Authority enforcement and compliance exercise. The NDA Kampala Extra Region comprises of three Greater Luwero district of Luwero, Nakaseke and Nakasongola. Now the National Drug Authority, again Public Relations Officer, did also say that enforcement and compliance exercises are routinely done to ensure licensed operators stick to the guidelines and regulations of the National Drug Authority.
On the international scene, we start off with what is happening over there in Ukraine. Now, one of Ukraine's richest businessmen has been killed with his wife in massive Russian shelling of the southern city of Mykolaiv. Oleksiy Vodatarsky, 74, and his wife, Raisa, died when a missile hit their home overnight, according to a report forwarded by local officials. Mr. Vodatarsky owned Niblon, a company involved in grain exports. He had also received the Hero of Ukraine award. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky described Mr. Vodatarsky's death as a great loss. Mykolaiv Mayor Alexander said it was probably the heaviest Russian bombardment of the city so far. There was damage to a hotel, a sports complex, 2 schools and a service station, as well as homes. Mykolaiv is on the main route to Odessa, Ukraine's biggest port on the Black Sea, and has been hit repeatedly since Russia launched its invasion on 24th February. The region's leader, Vitaly Kim, said Mr. Vodatarsky's contribution to the development of the agricultural and shipbuilding industry, the development of the region, is invaluable. Meanwhile, an advisor to President Zelensky's office said he believed Russia had deliberately targeted the businessman. Mikhailo Podolyak said one of the missiles hit the businessman's bedroom, adding that this leaves no doubt it was being guided. Niblon has built many storage facilities and other infrastructure for exporting grain. Well, supporters of powerful Iraqi Shia leader Muqtada al-Assad have erected tents and are preparing for a long sit-in at Iraq's parliament, deepening a months-long political standoff. On Saturday, supporters of the firebrand al-Assad forced their way into the legislative chamber for the second time in days after October elections failed to lead the formation of a government. The demonstrators announced a sit-in until further notice, al-Assad's movement said in a brief statement to journalists carried by state news agency. Nearly 10 months after October elections, Iraq is still without a new government, despite intense negotiations between factions. Government formation in the oil-rich country has involved complex negotiations since the 2003 invasion led by the United States toppled Saddam Hussein. Supporters of al-Assad, who once led a militia against the US and Iraqi government forces, oppose a rival pro-Iran Shia bloc speak for Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani. The post conventionally goes to a figure from Iraq's Shia majority. "We don't want Mr. al-Sudani," said one protester, Sattar al-Aliawi, a 47-year-old civil servant.
And in another story, the UN peacekeepers opened fire in DRC, causing several casualties. Now, an unknown number of people have been killed and several others were injured after the United Nations peacekeepers opened fire at a border post in eastern DRC, the UN said. Video of the incident shared on social media showed men, at least one in police uniform and another in army uniform, advancing towards the immobilized UN convoy behind a closed barrier in Kasindi, the town in eastern DRC, Beni territory on the border with Uganda. After a verbal exchange, the peacekeepers appeared to open fire before opening the gates, driving on and continuing to shoot while people scattered or hid. During this incident, soldiers from the Intervention Brigade of the MONUSCO force returning from leave opened fire at the border post for unexplained reasons and forced their way through the UN mission in Kasindi, said in a statement on Sunday. This serious incident caused loss of life and serious injuries. The special representative of the Secretary General of the UN in DRC, Bintu Keita, said an investigation has begun and the suspected perpetrators were arrested. And in weather and climate news, a heavy downpour that started around 10 p.m. yesterday that has claimed lives of an unidentified number of people have died within Mbale city and in the suburbs. Now the affected areas include Namawasa, Nawiyomba Ward, Doko, Bungoho, among others, where unidentified residents are said to have drowned in the running water, also destroying property worth millions. Now, yesterday's heavy downpour caused havoc in Bugisu sub-region. Though it rained for a short time, it caused massive floods and landslides in Mbale, Ududa and neighboring districts. The floods that started around 10 p.m. Yesterday claimed lives and a lot of property lost. A number of Bugisu area residents were also seen salvaging their property from the water runoffs and floods that seem to have overwhelmed the area. The residents whose houses are adjacent River Namubonga spent the night fighting water that entered their houses but almost were defeated, as Mugusa James, the chairperson Mirembesel, explains. Now, the Mbare RCC, Ahmad Washiki, says 3 bodies so far have been retrieved from Nabuyonga stream floods, and the residents city commissioner also emphasized the need to protect and preserve the environment. He urged residents to desist from destroying wetlands if such disasters are to be controlled.
Well, very, very sad scenes that we are seeing. I must say that there is a lot that we are yet to do. But also, before we get into our poll question, I believe that Robert has something to say when it comes to those 2 beautiful waters.
Well, sharing is caring. I wanted to ensure that this morning I start this new month by sharing one of these drinks with my friend here. But just to remind you that it's a new month and you can give a gift to someone. A carton of Hallelujah Jinga tea or Hallelujah tamarind drink. Now what these are going to do is they're going to boost the immune system. Now what is happening? The rains are here. And what happens? There are a lot of diseases associated with such form of weather. So what you can do, make sure you buy yourself, buy a friend, tell a friend about Hallelujah Jinga tea and tamarind, because you need to boost your immune system for you to be able to fight off a number of diseases.
Well, while you are at it, also just to let you know in of our poll question, what we would want, the conversation we really want to have with you this morning is definitely all about the floods that we saw. But again, this is just part of the problem. We know that there are very many problems that come in, especially that are associated to all these extreme weather events that we are witnessing every other day. And because of that, this morning we want to find out from you what can be done to safeguard the population in the face of floods and landslides in Uganda. What can be done to safeguard the population in the face of landslides and floods here in Uganda? Tell us what you think. Go onto our social media pages. The hashtag is UBCGMU. We will certainly see your responses, your 2 cents, your thoughts, your opinions, and we'll be happy and glad to share them with the rest of our Good Morning Uganda family. I mean, that is why we are here, to share ideas, to brainstorm and see what we can do for ourselves to make sure that we are progressing. Well, we are streaming on YouTube, so you can be part of our conversations all the way from the time we get up until the time we conclude. For now, we'll be getting into the inspiration song for this Monday, because we know that you need some inspiration. We need to get you going. It's a new month, it's a new week, so we need you to change your perspective. We need you to contort at what is happening to you and see how you find your way around it. When we get back, we'll be having a conversation about all these human disasters, all these natural disasters, myself and the entire panel. Good morning, Uganda. We'll be back shortly. is well paired for these institutions called marriage, and the other party is no less on the same page with the other one. So I guess he did have a very valid point, and again, it's something we can look into. Good morning, Mollen, how are you doing?
Yes, a very good morning to you, Philomena, and the team here. I want to say good morning to our family out there. Thank you very much for choosing to start the week with us. And yes, there is a lot going on in the country, but also in the aftermath of politics, that is in Sorority, Philomena. The news coming in is that FDC is planning to contest that election results because they feel that it wasn't fair, and of course they will be going to court for that. Now there's always a lot happening with the aftermath of elections in this country, and I think it's not the first time that we're seeing such, but we do hope that this is a matter that can be taken on, and people in Sorority can easily, you know, celebrate their victory if that is something that they choose for. But also what is happening in the country, Philomena, is I must talk about the floods in Bali and of course the landslides in Kapchora that we did see happening over there. Yes, we know that there has been rains going over that area, but also I think there is now more than ever, government needs to listen, and especially from what the scientists keep saying. These are terrible times. Whatever you're having in terms of weather now is going to go to extreme, and this is what I've been talking about every morning here when we talk about climate variations. There is a lot of extreme weather events that are involved with the rains. We no longer have rains as normal. We no longer have seasons as normal, because if you look at this season, it's more or less a dry season in a lot of areas. But when the rains come in, they're going to be heavy, they're going to be out of line, and that's where we say that government should be listening and at least do the mundane things they should be doing to prevent some of these extremes, like rivers busting their banks. There is a lot we can do to make sure that that doesn't happen anymore, or even rehabilitate people who are close to, you know, areas that are likely to have landslides, and that's how we can cope with the changing environment. I do hope that this is a campaign that will now go forward to ensure that our people are safe.
Well, the question actually still remains, Mollen, and again, I believe that this is something that you're going to be telling us much more later on. As Uganda as a country, have we realized that we have made a transition from the normal weather conditions to extreme weather conditions? Because it's no longer the normal sunshine we used to receive back in the day. It's no longer the normal rainfall we used to receive back in the day. Everything is in the extreme limits. But have we come to realization to this? Well, if you want answers to this, Mollen and of course the rest of us will be talking much more about that in Good Morning Uganda. Felix, the man with the glasses, how are you doing this Monday morning?
I'm all right. How are you, Philo?
I'm great. I'm doing fine.
I wonder what not even Robert said to you that you look beautiful in red and black.
Thank you. Thank you.
Normally it's Robert who picks on the colors, but I
am told these colors trigger you.
Did Robert say that?
Yes, not in a good way. We know Felix as he doesn't. He's not a lovely guy, I should say. He doesn't believe in love.
I feel offended. but anyway, it's good. It's good to be here. It's a Monday. Clearly, there's not going to be nothing like Monday blues because the team is up and in gear of spirits. And of course, the weekend, probably away from the challenges we talked about, the Budoda incidents, the Mbale incidents, and the landslides over there. There are quite a number of things that did happen. Robert did mention that we were able at least to pick a medal already from what's going on, the games there in the UK, and definitely also the party animals must have been thrilled on Friday, when we had Savage doing her thing. Of course, the rain is there, but that didn't even stop revealers. Kampala is normally a wash of parties on weekends. Have you noticed? Even up till right now.
Oh, yes.
Like if you bypass Katikati, if you bypass Garden City, trust me, that's when you know that the economy is probably hitting a couple of people, not everyone. But nevertheless, I feel this week there's a lot of things we expect. There's much to look up to. Among them is the solutions of government towards the people, or what we call the disaster that is going on as well. There's expectation that Parliament will also resume. What business we'll be looking at, we don't know, but also the big man, Chairman Mao, took office.
Oh, yes.
So he started officially Monday, will be starting his work. We await.
Expectations are really high.
Some of us are very excited.
Yes.
And I was discussing with some colleagues who are in opposition. And we had planned that. I think the first thing to do is to take to him a list of the political prisoners, the would-be political prisoners, as a check for him to see if he's actually going to be delivering on the scorecard of the expectation of the other people in the opposition. But much more of that, of course, will be giving viewers out there what will be unfolding as, of course, also the week goes on.
Well, there you go. The new Minister of Justice is definitely going to be taking up his office officially, starting official duties. You know, the anxiety that comes with it. I don't know how people actually deal with this, you know, knowing that people really have high expectations and seeing that this is quite a field that has a lot of pending issues, a lot of pending business. And
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
simply make a small deposit of 99k and pay the balance mpola. You can pay in daily, weekly or even monthly installments while you enjoy your new phone. So what are you doing today? Visit any MTN shop near you and get the MTN cupboard super easy.
A World Cup in the desert? The first one in the Middle East. The first to be held at the end of the year? That's crazy. Get ready for spectacular moves. High-flying saves. Unbelievable goals. Out of this world celebration.
Would you believe it? What a moment here!
All 64 matches live. That's over 5,000 action-packed minutes of the FIFA 2022 World Cup Qatar. Now that's crazy. Catch all the action only on SuperSport, your world of champions. On Gold TV. Love it.
Enjoy more GBs for the same price on Airtel. Kirabo using to Gabonais. We have increased GBs across all your favorite packs. Now, 4 GB is at 10,000 shillings and 10.5 GB at 22,500 shillings, all valid for a week. For the heavy data users, enjoy 24 GB at 50,000 shillings and 50 GB at 100,000 shillings, all valid for a month. Dial *175# or use the My Airtel app to buy these and more affordable weekly and monthly data bundles on Airtel, the smartphone network.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
The very first day of August 2022. Good morning, Uganda, and thank you for being with us this early morning, and of course in the early days of the week. My name is Philomena Mastiko, and I am joined by Robert Kirabo, Nyonyintono, Mollen, Kenyena for this conversation, and of course Felix Nkunda, where we'll be diving hard into, you know, this topic of floods, of the climate change that we're seeing, and of all these hazards that we are starting. I don't know whether we are just starting or they've already been happening, but we have just been tone deaf to the happenings in the country. But before we get into that, it's also very crucial for me to remind you of our poll question this morning, which is of course in the same category with what we are talking about. And again, this morning we really want to hear from you when it comes to these floods. What can actually be done to safeguard the population from all the floods and mudslides that we are facing in Uganda? What can we do to to safeguard the population in the face of floods and landslides in Uganda? Well, to take you back about what is happening, yesterday, Uganda really woke up to some really ugly news where we had our counterparts, our brothers and sisters in Mbale, where we saw floods that had really taken over, dominated some parts of this region. Now, we have at least from the numbers that have been reported, at least 10 people have lost their lives. But that aside, we saw a lot of property that was really damaged, it was such an ugly scene, and this is not something that would really wish on anybody, not even your worst enemy, you know, like we've always had. But again, we know that this has a lot to do with climate change, what the community has done, and even us as a country, what have we done to contribute to all this? Why are we facing this? And probably also to look deeper into the issues of climate change, whether we as a country have come to a realization that this is really getting extreme, and whether it's our own doing or it's just the universe turning against us, we are yet to rule that out. And maybe to start off, and I really would want to get from Mollen, because we're having a conversation earlier on, you know, the difference between a human-made disaster and natural-made disaster. Maybe you could throw more light about that before we dive into all this, because, you know, there are arguments being fronted that this is actually a natural disaster, and there is also a fraction of people who believe that no, these are actually human-made, you know, disasters. There is something that we could have done. So maybe start with differentiating between the two, and then we see at how we got here. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much, Philomena. And when we talk about what is happening right now in terms of disaster, when we talk about floods and landslides, I wouldn't say these are natural disasters. Yes, rains coming through, that's a natural thing. You do expect rains to come through, especially if you're looking at variations in the climate that we've had so far, that even when you have a dry season, there are rains that are going to come through. And even when those rains come, they're again very heavy. But also, rains don't need to be necessarily heavy to cause floods or even landslides. So for me, I want to attribute the ones that we're seeing in Uganda right now as flooding and landslides as really human-induced, because you look at why they're happening, and of course at the extent of you know, rivers busting their banks. That is something that can be looked at in a natural way. Yes, the rivers will be flowing, but why they bust their banks is where we attribute it to the human-induced, because obviously that means you are the rivers are overwhelmed to handle the amount of water that is now flowing into the river because of the rains, and for that it will end up busting its banks. That's where it comes in as human-induced, meaning that you have tampered with the banks, you have tampered with the flow, and obviously the rivers are overwhelmed to handle the capacity of water, so it will end up, you know, moving out, busting the banks, and of course it will add to the rains that are already there and henceforth causing floods. And of course the landslides as well, because you have heavy rains coming through. Yes, that's a natural event, but also the more it rains in an area, it makes the land over that area to kind of, you know, get shaky and of course starts cracking. Those are the early signs of a landslide. But once it happens, then it's going to cause a lot of damage to the surroundings. So what is human-induced is the fact that people have been settling close to those prone areas to landslides, and of course also planting there and encroaching on such territories, which is why we're seeing more of these disasters happening across the country. Philomena.
Well, thank you so much. So the next time you probably want to take that point of argument, you need to know whether it's human-induced or it's actually a natural disaster. But again, I mean, some of these disasters are really natural. You cannot expect them. The most you can do is, you know, avoid them. But also to hear from you, Robert, how did we get here? Okay, because have we contributed this? Have we brought this upon ourselves? Or sometimes we just can't help it, you know, by the nature of the, rather the location of this place. Is this something that we could have avoided from the start?
You see, Uganda has not just started to exist.
Yes.
Uganda has been around for a long time. And these rivers are not man-made. These rivers have been there for a long time. So have the human beings. But why didn't we have these calamities that we are having right now? The reason is simple, because of man's activity. And it's very annoying that our great-grandparents knew these things. You know, they will tell you you can't have a compound where you don't have windbreakers. It was known, for example, here in Uganda, omuntu alina emiti gy'abaana gy'omulujja jikwate kibuyaga obutatikkulako kasolya. When you go to these old people, I don't know who had taught them, but they knew so much. Today you visit a Felix in Nkunda, you visit a Mollen Kenyena, you visit Mastiko or Kirabo, no single tree in their compound. Pavers,
Yes.
tarmacked. Then you're like, look at this degree holder, you know. Even sometimes I've visited people in these departments, meteorology, NEMA, what, no single tree in the compound.
The smallest social studies that they acquired during the primary schools has just gone like that.
Yes. And those illiterate people, we thought, actually knew.
Yes.
The days of Brother Ratoro, you could not have a home when you don't have these trees. You know? They knew. They knew where people settle and where people don't settle. It was community involvement. You don't just go by the river. They knew that water comes from here, it goes, this papyrus perform this role, this and that. So today, in a time when we think we are so much educated, we are doing the opposite. People are encroaching on river banks. People now, the rich want to stay on top of hills. Am I lying? The rich and educated, you know, they're removing all the green, and then you hear them from here, I stay here, when I'm there I see Kampala. And now look at this one. So human activity has led us here. The windbreakers used, our great parents used to treasure, we don't. The river banks, we have gone and we are cultivating, weakening the soil. At the end of the day, what do we expect? This is about to happen. I was speaking to, when we had the Bududa floods, I spoke to one person called Wamende Wamoto, and he told me that it was a taboo in their days for anyone even to stay up there. They even come up with some beliefs, there is a ghost, there is this, but all these were meant to scare people, not to bring the havoc. So whatever is happening today, Mollen brought in a term, human-induced, and I want to agree with her, because we've had places where rains happen and above average or above normal, but we not see these floods. So as long as human beings have taken away their responsibility, nature will speak.
Yes.
Because it's meant to speak. You're not going to tell a river that you used to pass here, now go this way. Because that is nature. So the more we play with the nature, the more we are going to reap. And when it speaks, oh my God, it speaks with a lot of anger. So what we can do is, let's go back as communities, be responsible enough. As leaders, be responsible enough. And on a lighter note, let's do what it takes to reduce the population. Because some of these things, as a result of high population, you go to a village, one man has 40 children. You know, unplanned for. People that are going to look for any portion of land, no matter where. You know, these are lighter things when you're talking about climate change. But I've come to understand there's a relationship between high population growth. So as you're pushing your gospel, madam, of climate change and what, also put for family planning. Because we are so many, you find a man in the village, a woman on average 12 children. Then the man there boasts, I have 40, I have 50. They die and you're wondering, where are all these going to go? They're going to go on river banks, they're going to go on hilltops, they're going to become a disaster.
Well, thank you so much.
And also, if I could add on Robert talking about what we have been doing, there has been an increasing trend with deforestation, and that's for sure. And I think also that comes in as the population grows big, because you look at most of these areas that are having landslides now, it means that these areas are bare, and it's very easy for the land to just, you know, degrade down, because we've cut down all those trees without thinking to afforestate the area. And most of the authorities that actually took on this responsibility to do afforestation in flood-prone areas or even landslide-prone areas have failed to do their job. And that's why I have to say that we knew we would get there. These are not events that we did not expect. These were expected. Because once you start tampering with nature, and I was listening to the Minister of Disaster Preparedness and Refugees, Honorable Hira Nek, talking about the same, saying this is something that we expected. Because we continuously spread the gospel, and like you mentioned, Robert, I continuously talk about these climate things every day, how we get there. Please do not cut these trees. Please take stay away even from areas that you know are prone to landslides, but people just refuse to do that. They cut down the trees without thinking to actually put the grass cover there or even more trees. Because what happens, Philomena, is once you have these trees in the area, they help to keep the soil intact. They help to, you know, even if it rains that heavily, the runoff will not be as much as it would be, taking away or causing all these floods. But it's just a habit of Ugandans not to listen to scientists, not to listen to authorities, so we keep bringing these kind of events to ourselves. And that's how we got there.
And I think the route that Ugandans have chosen to take, I think they're settling more for for aesthetics, you know. Yeah. They want the place to look beautiful, but they forget about the nature, and they forget the implications that all these things that we're doing have on our country. But also, to get it from the government point of view, Felix, I would really love to hear from you, because there is a section of people who also believe that there is a portion of blame for government. Now, government has on several occasions come in after we've had all these calamities, relocating people or trying to come in with the first aid and I mean, try to get some relief. But we also need to look at government's intervention before these calamities happen. Now, there's been quite a number of arguments where they fronted saying that government has not done a lot of or enough of the sensitization for the people. I mean, for example, people who are busy occupying all these the riverbanks and having all the economic activities going on, has really government done its part to actually take those people away? Because I also believe they do have quite a bunch of scientists who advise them, you know, the Mollens of this day, telling you that this is just not right. If we don't do this, we're going to be facing a very serious calamity at the end of the day. So has government done enough for the before the calamity situation as opposed to the post-calamity situation?
Well, rightly said, you must, you may not fail to find portion of responsibility for institutions that are governed and mandated to manage human activity in all spheres in the country, for example. And those range from economic, social, political, cultural, religious, just to mention but a few. And the position of government gives it all the mandate to stop, to prevent, to control, etc. Now, for all the challenges that Mollen has talked about, Robert has highlighted, they are all in the confines of government, and that's a matter of fact. Tell you what, when you talk about the settlement policies, who is directly mandated to give guidance? It definitely comes back to government. Yes. You talked about, let's say, Robert brought into play the issue of childbirth. Again, it goes back to government. Now, for all the causes that you want to call human action, human character induced, are all controlled by government. Now, that simply means that for everything we are talking about human beings, we are talking about government. And probably this is a highlight that government has failed partially on its side to make sure it puts implementations and relevant policy and legal framework to assist, at least reduce on the threat. I'll give you an example of countries that are quite prone to such disasters. Countries like Australia, because of their terrain, Switzerland. They have a very, very bad sort of, I won't say bad, but a very funny terrain with so many hills. It's so hilly, and they are prone to have such, but you never hear such disasters. Because there's government policy. For example, imagine if government has a law that regulates how people carry out or how people settle.
Yes.
He did give an example, Robert, about encroachment. Today in Uganda, and I think this is in the face of everyone, do we still even have swamps? Let's talk about townships. Every day we have floods in Kampala. What's the reason? Starting from the center, clock tower, you see what happens there.
Yes, at the heart of Kampala.
You get it? Now, it's an evidence that there's human encroachment. But all the people who are what you call encroachment is verified, certified and allowed by government officials.
Yes.
There's no one who can put up any construction in this country. There are laws that guide. It means there's a physical planner somewhere who approved. It means there's an architect who, it means that enforcement saw the building crop up. All these things are known. And in some places, the funny thing, it is even government which built.
Yes.
You see this place in Chambogo there where there's UNRA, I think it's UNRA or something, where there are always floods. That swamp there, I think there are carbons around that side. There's a government office just outside that also suffers when it rains.
It becomes a victim of its own actions.
Yes, so we don't know if you can be the killer and the healer.
Yes.
That is the worry. That you're going to go in many places and government itself has failed to enforce. There is a full authority called the NEMA, for example. And you see, when we talk about these floods in isolation of other challenges, you may miss the point. That's why we bring in all these other, that they're all contributory. Just as people encroach on the swamps. Today, you go in this area, is it Chinawataka? You go to Chinawataka, you go to...
Kasokoso.
I don't know.
Yes, it's an area surrounding Chinawataka as well, close. Yes.
You see, you go to Namamve, go to Mukono, where people are building industries, go to, there's this road that goes to Wakiso. How is it? It's called, is it Lubiji? Yeah. You go there and see what they are doing. Now, 5 years from now, there's going to be a disaster there. And you know people will say?
Yes.
God, it is an act of God and all that. But it all comes back to government policy in terms of what are we not doing right? It is in this city where you see one of the spokesperson of KCA told us it was temporary stagnation.
Temporary stagnation,
but
after a few hours.
But where does the water go? We have lost people because of these floods in town. You've seen people, you know. So what I'm trying to bring out is that the issue of disaster is not even limited to what is happening in areas of Bali, what has happened in Bududa, what has happened in Nakasongola, all these places. Disaster, we create disaster and we are directly affected by the same. Now, our duty as Ugandans is to put government on spot. What are the applicable policies or laws in this country that help eliminate the possibilities of the so-called disasters? Do we have some policies? And these, if they are there, who do we hold responsible? One, let's talk about construction. Who's in charge of approving some of these plans? Secondly, what is the role of the local governance or local government for that matter in areas like Mbari in terms of issues of settlement? Does government have a say on settlement policies? That is another question.
Yes.
Can government tell you not to settle here? And if you settle there, what can government do? Because that land, does the land belong to government? Should we gazette all lands on river banks for government? Or are they for, and that's another question. Now it brings in the land question, the ownership question. Is that land for government or it is owned by individuals? When you go around the lakes, we are told in this country people even own plots in lakes.
Imagine the possibility.
So that's haven't you heard
part
of that?
Of the lake belongs to a certain government official.
There's a title for Kirabo Nyonyintono.
In Lake Victoria.
Then next to him, I don't know how they measure.
That is only in fish cage.
No. Kirabo, you'll be shocked.
No, people own whatever some parts of that lake. I can tell you for sure.
Where do you live? But away from that, we must then revisit our land laws. Because the question is this land private land? If it is private, government has not much to do about whether or not people choose to settle.
Yes.
Now, do we gazette all this kind of land to government? It speaks on, again, policy. We should be revising the policy and the laws because all the things we are saying that we want to call human-induced can be only controlled by an application of law. So probably Parliament, later on cabinet must induce such law, or the area members of Parliament can bring them as private members' bills to see how to assist.
But
because majorly that region has been affected by far.
Yes.
The region entirely.
The poll question running this morning: what can be done to safeguard the population in the face of floods and mudslides in Uganda? What can be done to safeguard the population in the face of all the floods and mudslides we're facing in Uganda? Now, I want us to focus on the solutions this morning, and I really want to hear from you, Felix, rather Robert. What can be done? And later on, I would really want, in fact, I think I should first hear from Mollen, especially when it comes to, before we get into the responses, the warnings. The warnings are very necessary, you know, coming in from government. And I want you to focus on that. Do you think the science fraternity has done quite enough to warn government, you know, to make sure that they pass on the warning? And has this been a fruitful intervention or solution or strategy? Yeah, before we focus on other solutions.
Well, I'll start with this. And one message that a lot of climate scientists have been passing on recently: every climate or disaster movie starts with politicians ignoring a message from scientists. And then they actually wake up after the flood, after the landslides. I think we've seen most of them, those movies, Geostorm, Don't Look Up, the likes of, you know, After the Flood. Most of those start with a politician ignoring the message. So this is what I'm bringing home. We have systems in this country, we have authorities in this country that actually give out these warnings. Now, what authorities like Uganda National Meteorological Authority does is give out this seasonal forecast. Look out for areas like this. There is possibility of landslides in such an area. There's possibility of heavy rains in such an area. But if we are to come up with solutions towards this kind of thing, it has to be a multi-sectoral kind of system. You have to bring the scientists who are predicting these events in play, also the people responsible to enforce some of the warnings. Because I understand even disaster and preparedness is always brought on board. Also, NEMA is always brought on board. Which areas need rehabilitation, or which areas actually, to the extent that most of these messages that come in as warnings warn against people staying in areas where we know are going to have floods, are going to have landslides. So I think what can be done at this point is make sure we take this information seriously. But also, if you look at rivers bursting their banks, most of these rivers are overwhelmed by the waters that come through. So we need to create more dams to help, you know, manage the amount of water that can come out of the river. Now, when you have a stable kind of levels in the river, it's very unlikely that even when the rain comes in such a heavy amount, it's unlikely that it will burst its banks. So I think we also need to create those. Then we have tampered with our drainage systems, especially when you look at swamps. I'll give you an example. There's an area along the Entebbe Expressway, and I always get disturbed when I look at that place. It was formerly a swamp, but now there is a big company that actually put up structures. Oh, yes. And I saw it happen. They kept getting all the water out, cleared the swamp, and now it's a facility. So these are the kind of stuff that we need to stop, because guess what? Those are some of the drainage channels, the drainage systems that are taking away all the waters that would be coming in from city centers like Kampala. So once you have those tampered with, you're going to expect more flooding even in the city. So I think also what we need to do is make sure we carry out afforestation and massive to some of these areas, especially close to those rivers and also close to the mountains, where we do expect most of these events to happen, and maybe then we can arrive at solutions. But also this is where government should be coming in, and I'm glad Felix was putting it clearly. Yes, we have policies in play, but once those are not implemented, once you're not doing any action about it, they will remain on paper. Okay. And I think that's where government is failing its part.
Now from the community level, Robert, what should be done? Because we cannot only leave this to government. What can the communities do to also help themselves, as government is also trying to do their part?
Community members, first it is you who die anyway. You see, the experts, government officials have not had any being taken in these floods. So what does it mean? That let's go back to our roots, the things that we cherished then, the very techniques that we used then that hindered us, that helped us treasure. You see, where I come from, there were even funny beliefs. You know, that river was just born, you don't build next to it. Okay. But you see, our great fathers, you see, me, what hurts me is thinking that we are a learned generation. We are a very exposed generation. And then those that came before us perfected certain things that we are failing to do. Then why, how? You know? So, communities, it is your responsibility to protect these natural resources. Because at the end of the day, they're going to consume you. But also, I want to urge the Mollens and the scientists of this country, also at times don't confuse Ugandans. Why am I saying confuse Ugandans? The poor Kirabos go in a swamp, they're cultivating, they have funny bananas, their yams, whatever. NEMA comes and chases them away. Investor Felix comes to the factory. Then you know what happens? They carry out an impact assessment report to mitigate.
It had to be
to mitigate.
And I think that cannot be blamed on the scientists.
No, let me first complete. Let me first complete what I want to say.
Yes.
So you've just asked the poor who are growing our mayuni, our bufane bananas in these swamps. Next, we are seeing a factory. We carried out an impact assessment report. We have ways we are going to mitigate. Psychologically, what does it mean? That you're witch hunting the poor. Mollen has just given us a good example. Madam, I want to inform you, people who are planting there, Namundu. Today, what is there? So what do you think these people, is it going to encourage them not to invade another place or not? Then you tell us, these are vital wetlands. These are water catchment areas.
Robert, one thing I know for sure is that both parties are in the wrong. The ones that are cultivating in the wetlands and even the ones that are being created space for the investors.
Let's say
yes.
that these are, like our great parents said, these were wetlands, we don't go to them. Or we teach people alternative ways, like what is happening in Limoto.
Yes.
Fish farming away from growing rice. But I'm not happy with the scientists and these institutions.
Well, our poll question is really running, and we do expect some feedback from you. That is, of course, in regards to what we asked earlier on, and that is what can be done to safeguard the population from all the floods and mudslides we are facing. We need to have a conversation about this, of course, and again, it goes on. It extends way beyond this very specific 30 minutes. So let us know what you think and what can actually be done. And again, thank you for being part of this discussion. We're going in for a break. When we get back, it will be the dailies on the desk.
We bring you a fresh, well-researched program to help you identify opportunities for investment, job creation, growing your entrepreneurial skills, wealth creation, and social transformation.
We have a product that is ready for schools, supermarkets.
Create wealth, transform livelihoods. Every week, we showcase opportunities for creating new products and services.
I now harvest a lot of cocoa. When I harvest it, I sell. After selling, I put money in my project. I have 2 projects. 1 is for construction of my house, 2 is for educating my children.
Excellence in innovation, the passion and drive to succeed, and the right mindset to grow your business. Create wealth, transform livelihoods. Brought to you by Operation Wealth Creation.
The Tales of Kasozi, brought to you by Uganda Communications Commission.
Hello? This is Kasozi. How can I help you?
Hey, Kasozi, my brother. Long time. We last met when we were at campus. It's been a while, but you are the person I'm looking for.
Campus? Really?
Hey, you don't remember me?
Okay, so how can I help you?
I'm stuck in Gulu making millions, and I need to urgently send money to my sick mother. But I can't find any mobile money agent near me. I've sent the money to your phone, as you can see the message. It might take a few minutes to come through, but I urgently need you to send the money to my mother. Let me send you her number, and you send it to her chap.
My friend, I'm afraid your mom is going to die.
What?
Because I don't know you, I never went to campus, and I'm also in Gulu. So can we meet at CPS, we talk about it?
Stay tuned for what Kasozi does next.
Tofera, refrain from unnecessary engagements with strangers over the phone. This message is powered by the Uganda Communications Commission. World Cup in the desert, the first one in the Middle East, the first to be held at the end of the year. That's crazy. Get ready for spectacular moves, high-flying saves, unbelievable goals. Out of this world celebrations.
Would you believe it? What a moment here!
All 64 matches live. That's over 5,000 action-packed minutes of the FIFA 2022 World Cup Qatar. Now that's crazy. Catch all the action only on SuperSport, your world of champions. On Go TV. Love it.
Enjoy more GBs for the same price on Airtel. Kirabo using Uganda. We have increased GBs across all your favorite packs. Now, 4 GB is at 10,000 shillings and 10.5 GB at 22,500 shillings, all valid for a week. For the heavy data users, enjoy 24 GB at 50,000 shillings and 50 GB at 100,000 shillings, all valid for a month. Dial *175# or use the My Airtel app to buy these and more affordable weekly and monthly data bundles on Airtel, the smartphone network.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
The papers this morning, of course, welcome to the press review, and we start off with the Daily Monitor, and we're looking at 30 years of truth, a roller coaster right from operating in a dingy basement office to owning its own home and printery, despite denial of government advertising and constant threats to its existence. And they're showing you all the transitions they made on their cover page. Again, more for you to look out in this morning's Daily Monitor. Now, in more news, heavy rain kills 10 in Elgon region, and my journey to cabinet has been long. A story from Norbert Mao. And Kabaka tips farmers on value addition. Again, that is one you can catch up in the Daily Monitor this morning. Now, moving on to the second page of this paper, still a more detailed story on how Kabaka tipped farmers on coffee value addition, but also taking you back in time. The OAU summit ends and Gowon ousted. This is, of course, today in history. Also in history, Warsaw Revolt begins. The year was 1944. So catch up on all these stories and more in the Daily Monitor. But we also do have the New Vision on board. And what do we have, Mollen?
Well, in the New Vision this morning, Kiplangat's Cheptegei saved my career. That is on page 8 of the New Vision. Of course, detailed stories inside there. But the big headline, as head teachers get top-up pay. And of course, public service issues new salary notice. Now the detailed story is on page 3. They also give you a picture of the landslides in Mbale, 13 killed, 12 missing as floods hit Mbale and Kapchora. They give you pictures of some of the cars that were really swept away by these floods. Also in the New Vision, Kabaka advises government on coffee industry. That story is on page 11. And also another one on 3 held over murder of Kamoche councillor. Details are on page 14 of the New Vision. And in the New Vision for this morning, how Echin Hero excited Mbara. Of course, that was one of the most talked about, that in Western Uganda. That is detailed on page 55. Glamour Pomp at Bride and Groom Expo, details on page 10. And of course, page 54 of the New Vision for this morning. Get yourself a copy and you can get a lot of these stories.
Crossing over to the sports section of the Daily Monitor, celebrate with us the truth, again and only the truth, and still giving you quite a bigger story on that. Now, Bombers finally get kits. We're looking at Commonwealth Games. Boxers John Achobe and Isaac Zebra Senyange Jr. had already been eliminated when their kits arrived. Another story you can get on page 51 of the Daily Monitor. Onto the second page of the paper, Kiplangat looks to better Kiprotich after the Commonwealth Games gold, and we're seeing Kiplangat who vowed to deliver more wins. In other words, he is promising to rewrite history. This is something very interesting. You ought to catch up. And if you love basketball, every team wants to beat the Blazers. And now this is, of course, in line to Friday 76 to 68 and Saturday's 108 to 60 points win over Power and Victoria University. Again, another story you ought to catch up on this morning.
Well, in the New Vision Sport as well, they talk about more on what Victor Kiplangat has done, and of course talking about Birmingham 2022. Well, a few meters to the finish line, and he's talking about victory that has allowed a very, very huge smile on Ugandans. And of course, they also give you a message of the First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports, Janet Museveni, also paying tribute to Victor Kiplangat. She continues to say, describing it as a very awesome, that is for his victory, giving us gold right there from Commonwealth Games. But also crossing over to the second page, the She Cranes stand tall. Of course, talking about looking for the World University Championship at Makerere University, and how they got from there up to where they are right now. Of course, they also give you more on the new swimming records as we talk about Uganda's four-man swimming team that has so far also given us good progress when it comes to the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham.
The Daily Nation this morning, Decision 2022, and the shape of Mountain Kenya. By the way, on the countdown, we're seeing only 7 days to the elections. We will be knowing who the next president of the United Republic of Kenya will be. And I'm telling you, the polls are really getting hotter and hotter by the minute. Now, the cost of living, city residents to pay more for water in new raft of proposals. Again, you can see that the Kenyans are quite on the same page when it comes to all the economic frustrations that we are all facing. And Uhuru launches the Nairobi Expressway. The pictures are really looking so beautiful, and there is a lot that has to be said. So yes, you can catch up on that story on page 8 of the Daily Nation. Well, grab yourself a copy and see what Kenya and all the counties in there are all up to. But before we get into the traffic updates, just to remind you of our poll question, which is running, and of course we really want to hear from you, and that is, how can the Uganda population be safeguarded from all these floods and mudslides that we are facing? How can we safeguard the Ugandan population from the floods and mudslides that we are facing? Tell us what you think could be the ideal solution to this problem, and who knows, you could actually be a hero for coming in with such a tangible and solid solution. Get on to you, GMU, of course, that is the hashtag, and let us know what you think. We'll be getting into your feedback as we go on. But also, it's very important for you to know what's happening on the roads this Monday morning. It's a Monday, so naturally it's always a busy day, especially on the roads, because we have quite a number of road users. Everybody trying to get to town, trying to get to their final destination. And I want to focus on Kampala division, the central division areas where you could definitely be looking into to avoid all the traffic. Although I must say that some of the usual roads this morning are quite busy, so it would be be ideal for you to plan accordingly if you're headed there. But this morning, if you're using Yusuf Lule Road, I need to let you know that it's quite very, very busy. Matter of fact, traffic is building up on several parts of that road, and it's quite evident here, and it gets heavier by the minute, as you can see coming in from this roundabout. However, you could also decide to use the Nile Avenue, which is quite free this morning, at least for the most part of it, so you don't have to worry about traffic issues. Now, of course, from Nile Avenue, you get to join all the way till Speak Road. Speak Road is quite a different story. This morning, it is very heavy, the traffic. We have all the motorists have already converged here, and very many other road users, so it may take you a little longer to get to your final destination. Lumumba Avenue is not any different from Speak Road. The traffic is already heavy there, as highlighted by red, and of course, you know, as you could be using this to connect to the square, I could say that route that helps you join Buganda Road is actually very free this morning. As you can see, green is quite dominant over there. And when you get to Buganda Road is a one-way road, so if you're headed out of town, headed towards Wandegea, it should be ideal for you because there is no heavy traffic. Now, sloping down all the way till Kampala Road is quite a menace, I must say. The traffic is already built up in several parts of this road, and in other areas it's actually already very heavy. The red here clearly highlights that. So if that is your route every single morning, you need to be in the know of what is happening over there. And by the way, this traffic stretches all the way from Jinja Road, of course, as you're joining Kampala Road, shown by the arrows. Now, whether you're getting into the city center, you need to know that you will be experiencing some traffic hiccups. However, if you're leaving, it may not be as bad as getting into the city center. So while you're headed towards town, using all these inside short routes, it should be quite a very delicate route for you, because I must say that the traffic on most of these roads is quite very heavy, and it could get heavier by the minute. That's it from the traffic updates this morning, but also we need to hear from the weather. What are we looking at? How is August shaping up for us in terms of weather, Mollen? Because July, I must say, the heat really took the storm, the dust was all over the place, but now we are looking at rains, we are looking at floods. How are we surviving this one?
Well, it looks like actually this time of the year is mostly unpredictable, I want to say that, because on the other hand, you're dealing with most of these floods, but you also have the heat going on, and most areas are actually dry as we speak, even crying over drought crisis. So it's overall looking like maybe August might actually be bringing with it a lot of disasters, especially if you look into the forecast that did come out earlier from UNIMA, indicating that most areas within eastern Uganda might continue with the rains. But again, the rest of us might have to have, you know, a little bit of more sun coming through, and that's how August is looking like.
Well, considering that you said it's quite unpredictable, I guess at this point what you need to do as a Ugandan, be ready for any weather condition. If it shines, you're very ready. If it rains, you are ready as much. If it rains extremely, again, you are ready and you know what to do. Well, now I will officially hand you over to Mollen to give us more about what's happening in the sphere of weather and climate, and also maybe give us the weather forecast. Will it rain? Will it shine? That's a question she's yet to answer. Good morning, Uganda. I am Philomena Mastiko.
Well, thank you very much, Philomena. And of course, we want to take it on from the floods across Mbale, and of course the mudslide that we saw across areas within Kapchora. Now, so far, we do know that 13 people have been confirmed dead, but we already know that rescue operations are ongoing, especially for recovering people. And of course, there are still more missing. So far, we do know that the number is up to 12 who are presumed missing. That is from the neighbors or the families claiming that these people could have been trapped within the mudslides. We did see the Prime Minister Robina Nabanja heading over Mbale to ascertain the damage and of course see what can be done on the side of government. But this kind of flooding has taken a lot of property and a lot of damages. We did see some of the bridges that were being overwhelmed by these floods, and of course a lot of property has been destroyed, even to the extent that some of the cars that were on the roadside were actually swept away by most of these floods. Now, what we do know is that also this area, there were heavy rains, yes, and for a couple of hours. But now what happened is that in that event, that most of those rivers burst their banks. So far, 4 rivers that did burst their banks, and of course that added to the flood waters over the area, and henceforth triggering more floods across areas of Mbale. And of course most of those were also due to the fact that that area has been most vulnerable. Also what the Prime Minister was talking about is that they have been doing surveys over eastern Uganda, looking at most of the areas that are most likely to be experiencing most of these floods. But again, you look into the fact that also when we have authorities that are responsible taking longer to respond, that is the kind of damage that we could be looking at. Millions of property being destroyed in this kind of floods. So I think most of what we were even talking about in Newsreel is what can be done, the solutions at this level. Yes, we do have these negotiations every year. We did have a Glasgow Pact coming across, telling countries that no one is immune to these disasters. While last week we were talking about the heat waves and of course the drought crisis across the world, we continue to deal with most of these floods, and of course they are going to keep coming. So climate extremes are going to come to everyone, and they're going to be in our faces. However, what is ugly about it is that it is taking lives with it, it is taking property with it. So it's about time that we really revise our climate action plans and make sure that we are ready for most of these valuations. Otherwise, the trend is only going up. We're going to see more frequency in floods, we're going to see more frequency in landslides, and now it's taking on new areas because we have been used to some of the prone areas like Bududa and Kasese, and we know that's where the floods will happen, that's where the landslides will happen. But now you're seeing more areas that are being covered. That's what we talk about when we are talking about most of these climate extremes. Now, the flooding wasn't just here in Uganda. Also, what we do know is that Iran has been dealing with flash flooding, and so far 69 people have been confirmed dead across areas of Iran due to the flooding over there. Now, this also started as heavy rains swept through Saturday and Sunday, and the local authorities are also confirming that 45 people are still missing across areas of Tehran and 3 other provinces following recent floods which damaged at least 20,000 residential homes across Iran. And of course, more than 20 provinces, including the Tehran province, have been affected by the floods that were caused by heavy rains. And also what we do know is that the main highways were closed and thousands of people evacuated from areas, especially as they looked at more of these flooding likely to happen. Now, this happened as the Iranian Meteorological Organization did give a warning of the rains that will continue across several provinces. Now, what is different, I must say, about the flooding in Uganda, and you look at the extent of the flooding in Iran, this was much more extent, but they managed to do evacuations of a lot of people from the area, even as the flooding was continuing, as areas were being destroyed. Now, that is what happens, especially in economies, in countries where they are able to manage this. They have helicopters around, flying people over the area. But in a vulnerable country like Uganda, that is not going to happen so soon. So you have to look at more how you're coping with these extreme events, because the response that you will give as Uganda will not be the same response. And of course, you look at the damages are the same. Of course, having more numbers in Iran, so far reporting 69, that is going to be a huge number. But how you respond to such events is going to be different. And of course, most vulnerable countries will continue to be vulnerable. So all we can do right now is really get into the climate action and make sure that we avoid most of these disasters. Now, that also comes in as Kentucky was also dealing with the floods across the area. And of course, the Kentucky one did also cross over into the weekend, where they're looking at the death toll now rising to 28. That is as the area also braces for more rains. Now, at least 20 people have confirmed dead across last week's floods in Kentucky. And of course, there are also still numbers missing, or as families claim, for their missing relatives. And of course, also more of the areas that have been affected across Kentucky, and the devastating floods actually started, that was on Thursday, pressing over into the weekend. And of course, that is where we saw more numbers, especially in terms of property damage. And of course, the flooding over the area was also triggered by the heavy rains across the area. Now, look at areas within the USA. On one area, they're also dealing with extreme heat wave that was across Texas, areas of Texas, and especially the southern province, the southern part of the USA. But again, now just after that, they are dealing with flooding. This is what we talk about when we say there are going to be different extremes, right from one to the other. While we're dealing with, even back home here, where we're dealing with the drought crisis in Karamoja, or even in the central part of the country where we did see the cattle also getting affected, you have some extremes of flooding. So it's going to come at that. It's going to be intense. It's going to be frequent. And this is when we call for authorities and government to really take their place and fight this climate crisis, also declare it as an emergency already. I'm happy that the president of the country, President Museveni, was talking about, you know, how serious our tampering with the environment has caused most of these extremes. And I think just the days after that, we're seeing a lot of extremes related to weather. That is just an eye-opener to what we're likely to be facing across most areas within Uganda if we do not also take climate action seriously. But we also want to come back home here and take a look at what is happening across the country for this morning. We do know that at least most areas for this August have been forecast to remain with equally sunny intervals or just mostly dry conditions, but at least the eastern part of the country, parts of northern Uganda, as well as the western sector will continue with those rains as we look into the month of August. But also we do know that August does usher us into our second major rainy season. That is the September to December second major rainy season across Uganda. So we will be keeping a track on that. But from what we're seeing from the satellites, we do have mostly in terms of sunny and cloudy conditions across most areas. However, we have a rainy system that is starting to develop across the Lake Kyoga region, and that is one to look out for. It is covering areas of Buyende, coming towards the areas of Nakasongola as well. That's the system that we're looking at in colors of yellow, orange right there. That is the one that might be bringing us rains this morning. We already have a few of those showers coming through across areas of Buyende. That will be crossing over eastwards towards areas of Nakasongola, Luwero, Woodlands. We could be dealing with most of those as the day progresses, but for now it's mostly to the eastern side in terms of sunny and cloudy conditions. We do have one other one that is coming through towards eastern Uganda, areas of Soroti. We could be looking at more of the cloudy weather across Mbale. This is where we had most of those extreme events, but we are looking at more of that clearing as the day progresses. We also have a system that is starting across, that is the central part of northern Uganda, where we have Padeo over there already covered with most of those clouds. Most likely we'll be having rains coming through as the day progresses. We also have one across midwestern Uganda. This is already bringing us rains across Lake Albert, a little bit of spills towards Hoima, and of course that system is headed southwards. We could be looking at rains also across parts of Fort Portal. And of course, southwestern Uganda continues with mostly cloudy weather. But we'll go ahead and take a look into your forecast for this morning, and that is coming in from the Uganda National Meteorological Authority to look into the numbers that we're expecting for today and also the weather forecast for today across different areas. We do know that the southern sector is continuing with most of those rainy conditions, but elsewhere we might be having a clearing trend. We start off with the western side of Lake Victoria. That is where we have Masaka, Kalisizo, Sembabule and Rakai. We are forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine for this morning, and temperatures will be starting off at 25. We do expect some of the rains to develop later in the afternoon across that area. And looking at southwestern Uganda, that is where we have Mbarara, Ibanda, Bushenyi and Rubirizi. We are forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine as well, starting off with a pleasant 26 degrees centigrade. Now that area is also expected to have a little bit of rains later as we head into evening. Now across the Mount Elgon area, where we have Mbale, Bududa, Buko and Sironko, we're forecasting mostly in terms of sunny and cloudy conditions. We already have those clouds over the area. That will also be starting off with quite a chilly 25 degrees centigrade. We're looking at the eastern side of Lake Victoria, where we have Tororo, Busia, Iganga and Jinja. We're forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine for this morning, starting off with a pleasant 26 degrees centigrade, and most of those systems will continue into the afternoon, looking at a mix of clouds and sunshine. Now for eastern Uganda, where we have Katakwi, Amuria, Komi, Soroti, it looks like it's going to be mostly a clear morning for you with intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions, and also that beautiful 26 degrees, which is kind of normal for this time of the year across that area. We could also be looking at more of that continuing into evening. Now the eastern side of Central, where we have Ruwero, Woblenzi, Bururi, Nakaseke, we do have Nakasongola in that category as well. We already have some of those rains coming through from that system of Lake Shoga. Now that will be bringing in more rains for this morning, starting off with a beautiful 26 degrees centigrade. That system might clear as we head into the afternoon. Now the central parts of northern Uganda, we're already seeing clouds over there, but that will be mixed with a little bit of sunny conditions for your morning there, and that takes in parts of Gulu, Kitgum, Adjumani and Padel. We are forecasting temperatures to be at 26 degrees centigrade. Now back at the central parts of Lake Victoria Basin, we're looking at Kampala, Entebbe, Wakiso, as well as Mukono. We're seeing quite a clean trend for this morning with mostly a mix of clouds and sunshine. Also starting off chilly with at 25 degrees centigrade. Now that's cold weather, but again, as we head into the afternoon, we might be looking at more systems developing, especially for the central parts of Lake Victoria. Might have a little bit of rains coming through, but also that will be just over a few areas. Now most rains are also expected to the western side of the country. We can expect most of those to come through, especially for Midwestern, where we're already seeing those clouds developing for areas of Fort Porto, Masi and Hoima. You can brace yourselves for those rains, especially for much of today. Well, that is it in terms of weather. We do have more programming for you. Good Morning Uganda agenda is coming up. Later than that, we'll also be having sports highlights. And of course, you know, you can continue with us in our conversations. The hashtag is hashtag UBCGMU. We are on Twitter. And of course, follow up with a conversation on our poll question as well. My name is Mollen, Kenyena. I want to wish you a wonderful Monday.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
A World Cup in the desert? The Middle East. The first to be held at the end of the year? That's crazy. Get ready for spectacular moves. High-flying saves, unbelievable goals, out-of-this-world celebration.
Would you believe it? What a moment here!
All 64 matches live. That's over 5,000 action-packed minutes of the FIFA 2022 World Cup Qatar. Now that's crazy. Catch all the action only on SuperSport, your world of champions. On Go TV, love it.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
Simply make a small deposit of 99k and pay the balance mpola. You can pay in daily, weekly or even monthly installments while you enjoy your new phone. So what are you doing today? Visit any MTN shop near you and get the MTN cupboard super easy.
Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here, in the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking, to the taste of food that takes you on a journey, in the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth, in the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the Pearl of Africa.
It's better to foster respect instead of fear and pain.
Cause a good school equals a better life.
Raising voices.
Welcome to English in a Minute. It is good to arrive to important events on time or even early.
I was worried you were not going to make it.
Oh, I'm here, and I have all the things you asked me to bring.
Great. You got here just in the nick of time. We only have 5 minutes before the guest of honor arrives.
And that is?
My cat and all her furry friends.
Your cat.
Meow.
If something happens in the nick of time, it happens at the last possible moment, just before it is too late. Nick was the word for a narrow and exact marker. Word experts say the phrase "in the nick" has been used for hundreds of years to mean a critical moment. And that's English in a Minute.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
A World Cup in the desert? The first one in the Middle East. The first to be held at the end of the year? That's crazy. Get ready for spectacular moves. High-flying saves. Unbelievable goals. Out of this world celebration.
Would you believe it? What a moment here!
All 64 matches live. That's over 5,000 action-packed minutes of the FIFA 2022 World Cup Qatar. Now that's crazy. Catch all the action only on SuperSport, your world of champions. On Go TV. Love it.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
A lovely morning to you, and thank you so much for being with us here on UBC TV at 7 minutes past 8 a.m. is the time check. So in case you're moving anywhere while and you're watching us via our YouTube channel or you're still at home, thank you for being part of the show. I'm Kirabo, Nyonyintono. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda Agenda. This lovely warm morning where Mollen has given us a bit of weather, so that gives you informative information on what you should put on, how you're going to program your day, or even the means of transport maybe you're going to use. Since we're in a month of August where we know that usually, yes, our second rainy season of the year now officially starts. Today we want to look at a very sensitive issue. Why am I calling it sensitive? Because we know that over 80% of our population are youth. But away from unemployment, they also dominate crime. If you go to most of the police stations, when they're registering names of suspects, not criminals, but suspects, because they are suspects until proven guilty by a competent court. They ask for age, they ask for name, they ask for tribe. I don't know why they ask for tribe. I'll ask the officer I have on, say that I'm going to introduce to you. Why do you always ask for tribe when a person commits an offense? So you find that on their counter books, majority are people from 18 to about 30 years. they dominate crime in this country. When you check prison records, apart from the data, majority are youth. And today we want to look at the youth against crime. How do the youth come in the fight against crime? And for now on set, I have the Community Liaisons Officer, Katwe Police Division, and later we'll be joined by one of the youth leaders in this country who will be on set as we discuss this issue. Afande Nathan Katumba, you're most welcome.
Thank you, sir. I'm privileged to be on this program. ASP Nathan Katumba is my name. I'm the Community Liaisons Officer of Katwe. Thank you. On this note, I would let me send my condolences to the Elgon region. We faced floods last night, and people really died. So it is on a sad note. May their soul rest in peace, and may God be with them. Thank you.
On a lighter note, just to start with something that I brought in my introduction phase, why do you always ask for tribe for a person?
When someone is arrested, we get your particulars. When we get your particulars, the particulars will include your age and will include your tribe. So it is a normal thing. When I say your particulars, we need everything that concerns you. Your age, tribe, where you come from, because you will even ask me, why do you ask me where I come from? But we need to get where you come from. Yes, those are your particulars. We need to know you, because usually when we arrest criminals, these days we have a mechanism. We profile them. We profile them so that we can crime track. That if you got involved in crime today, we shall profile you. Profiling, I mean, we shall fingerprint you. Because usually, when you go to issues of science, when they fingerprint me, my thumb is not the same as yours.
True.
Yes. So when we fingerprint, we take your pictures and we put them in a profile, so that we can crime track. So next time when we arrest you, we shall have your details. Or maybe, unfortunately, when you're traveling abroad. When you want to travel abroad and you're going to Interpol, there is a criminal record. So if you have a criminal record there, you may find yourself you may not travel. So why do I
bring the certificate of good
exactly
conduct.
So why do I bring that? Let's really try to be conscious in whatever we are doing, because you'll miss a journey. You'll miss a very important journey in your life because of these simple things of crime.
Very interesting. Now, this brings me to today's topic. Afande, we know that most of the crimes, the suspects happen to be youth. First, let's understand why youth. These are people maybe that have not yet gotten so much responsibility. Maybe one would think they're involved in crimes because they're fending for their families. These are sometimes people we think that there is so much ahead of them. They're not so much in a hurry of time, but it's very disappointing when you find that the most involved in crime, ranging from petty or minor offenses to heavy crime, as far as armed robberies, we find them.
Yeah, I thank you. I think one of the biggest reasons to youth getting involved in crime is this issue of group influence. They want to do things in groups. They look at themselves as, then the other issue is they look at themselves as vulnerable. Yes? And the other issue is they are too expectant. Someone wants something in a short time. When he sees a colleague driving a vehicle, yes, when he sees a colleague with a nice phone, he will be like, how do I get that nice phone in the shortest time? Yes? So that is where the problem comes. They want things in the shortest time. They don't know that you need to work. Yes, they don't know that there are things that you get after some time through struggle. For them, they want to get things as fast as possible. Someone has come out from school, yes, he wants to drive a car, he wants to have an expensive phone of 2 million, yes. So at the end of the day, what will it be? At the end of the day, trust me, when he wants that shortcoming to get whatever he wants, he's going to get involved in crime. Because he will have it in his mentality that when I go and do this, within hours, I'll get what I want. So that is why majority of them, and the biggest challenge even is when they leave school, they go to school expecting to get jobs there and then. So when he comes out of university and he moves on the street for like a year or two, he'll be like, no, I went to study to get a job, I've not yet got a job, and yet I need things, quick things. So at the end of the day, he will revive his mind to get quick things. So when you want quick things, in most cases, they will resort to crime. Because he thinks that it is the shortcut to get what?
So they opt for shortcuts to get wealth. Well, I earlier told you that we'll be joined by a young lad on set with whom we are going to be discussing more of youth in the fight against crime. Let's take a short break and he'll be joining us on set. Keep it with us.
A World Cup in the desert? The first one in the Middle East. The first to be held at the end of the year? That's crazy. Get ready for spectacular moves, high-flying saves, unbelievable goals. Out of this world celebration.
Would you believe it? What a moment here!
All 64 matches live. That's over 5,000 action-packed minutes of the FIFA 2022 World Cup Qatar. Now that's crazy. Catch all the action only on SuperSport, your world of champions. On Go TV. Love it.
Welcome to English in a Minute. It is good to arrive to important events on time or even early.
I was worried you were not going to make it.
Oh, I'm here, and I have all the things you asked me to bring.
Great. You got here just in the nick of time. We only have 5 minutes before the guest of honor arrives.
And that is?
My cat and all her furry friends.
Your cat.
Meow.
If something happens in the nick of time, it happens at the last possible moment, just before it is too late. Nick was the word for a narrow and exact marker. Word experts say the phrase in the nick has been used for hundreds of years to mean a critical moment. And that's English in a Minute.
You're still watching Good Morning Uganda, our agenda, and we are discussing youth in the fight against crime, where, like earlier told you, that if you go to any detention center in this country, you'll find that the biggest number of suspects or those that have been convicted as criminals, you'll find out that they are youth. And joining us now is Mutabazi Daniel, a youth leader from Rubaga. You're most welcome, Mutabazi.
Thank you.
Well, Mutabazi, earlier on, Fande Katumba had talked about reasons why youth get involved in crime. That is from the police perspective. Now, I want to get from you, what are some of these reasons that you really think are the factors where we are seeing young lads, people with so much ahead of them, many ending up in jails, being sentenced, convicted, and serving years, returning when they're already in their 40s plus.
Yeah, we've seen a large number of youths getting into crime, but the question is, are they criminals? Me, I would throw the question back to two aspects, the community and the family. When we are being brought up in my era, a child would be for the community, being it that you're born in one community, you're bonded with that oneness. Whenever they would see you diverting, at least an elder in the community would take caution, would say, Mtavas, this is what you're doing is not good. What you're doing will lead you to this, but this era we are in, me, I project a lot of crime is going to be among youths. Why? Because of families where they are brought up from, because of the communities. We have a lot we need to, which needs to be done. What type of families are we living in today? For them, they also don't have responsibility. A family, starting up a family is a responsibility. But you find a family of someone who is aged 20, that is a father, the mother is 17, and they get a child. First of all, they are not working. Second, they don't have family experience or what would say parental guidance. This is where you're going to find high rate of domestic violence and what. So we need to involve even the family and the community. They need to sensitize before you join, before you go into marriage. What do you expect? Then the other aspect would be us to youths. Quick things. We need petty things, but we don't know the precautions after. If you're from school, you studied as a civil engineer, you get maybe a hiccup, you don't complete your course, then in the due course you get petty jobs, maybe hawking. In hawking, you find that there are a lot of divers. There is a lot of divers in that. How are we going to handle someone who wants quick things, or how are we going to sensitize and induct that quick things, again, they will go quickly.
Easy come, easy go. Now, this brings me back to Rafande Katumba. Mutabas, you brought up around something very important, that is community. You're the community liaisons officer, and this, I think, comes directly to your docket. How can we bring back community responsibility? Because on many platforms when we are discussing a number of challenges of this generation, people will tell you that you see the role of community is being very absent today. Children, everyone is for himself and maybe their family. No one would think of someone else's child as part of their children or their responsibility to nurture their bringing. So how do we restore what we lost?
Thank you. According to the African Traditional Society, it built responsibility mostly on a child was for everyone, according to that period. But where centuries have changed, it is diverting from that. These days, each and every person is responsible for his child. Those days, where a child could commit a crime, you would even get a neighbor caning the child. So the child will get to know that what I've done is a crime against the community. But these days, a child makes a crime or gets involved in a crime, then he expects only the parent to punish him. When any other person comes, like a neighbor, to raise a hand on him, the parent of the child will run to police and will report a case. My child was beaten, what. Then police will begin from there investigating, arresting the neighbor, doing whatever sort of things. So at the end of the day, you'll find when a child gets to know that if my mother is not there, I can commit a crime. If my dad is not there, I can do anything which I want. Yes? So at the end of the day, with the busy schedule parents who go for work at 5, he comes back very late in the evening at 8. It will be very hard to groom up a child in the right way. So I urge communities out there, you might not be so tough on someone's child, but at least you say a word or two to that child. What you've done is wrong. Please don't do that. Please don't do this. Please don't fight your colleague. Please don't do this. But when we take it that the period has changed, we are in a new era, crime is going to continue. The child will grow up knowing that what I'm doing, because he knows the parent is the parent is not ever there. The child will grow up with those behaviors. Then at the end of the day, he will think that it is normal. It is normal to abuse. Yes, it is normal to pick someone's thing without asking for permission. So when he's a child and he begins picking someone's thing without permission, the behavior is going to grow in him. So at the end of the day, when he grows up, he will think that I can go and pick someone's phone and I take it, and no one will even ask me. So at the end of the day, the behavior will build. So he will grow up. Then tomorrow you will find when he's a serious thief. But it is something that has been something that he has built from childhood because of the upbringing. Then there is that aspect of which I talked about of peer group influence. Usually kids go in schools, yes, they begin copying behaviors from other children. So at the end of the day, he will copy that behavior, copy the behavior. Then when he goes out of school, he will want to practice what he copied in school. So at the end of the day, you'll find when such behaviors are those uncouth behaviors that he copied from some child in school who came with bad behavior. So at the end of the day, someone will grow up, then tomorrow he will become a serial offender.
And the parent, you just can't figure it out. I remember recently there was this trending a story on various social media platforms of the 3 children. I think it was Greenhill, Kasangati. And one of the mothers, I was privy to hear one of the voice notes she sent in some group where I happened to be a member. And she was telling us that my boy, you could not even think of that. That my boy at his age could think of running away from school, going and starting a business, then all that. So at the end of the day, parents don't know the children they have, and they are only surprised when they are told that your child has been involved in a robbery, that's been shot dead, armed. It's like, that can't be my child. So when you bring out that, I think it speaks volumes to parents and communities as well. But Mutabazi, let's look at you leaders, because most of the times we are told, the politicians, that many of these youth are engaged in crime, sometimes that is instigated by the leaders themselves. I remember when it comes to political terrains in this country, political moments, the youth are good at throwing stones, sometimes damaging vehicles. But you may find that the man contesting is 70. But those doing this nonsensical groundwork are just supporters, young supporters. And we were told, yes, you could see them as young supporters, but you see, these ones are in the shadow. They get them the stones to pelt, they get them the bullets to disturb their thinking. At the end of the day, execute missions. You, the politicians, what have you done to ensure there is sanity in the youth rather than exploiting? I think the right word is exploiting their age, because they use their muscles, the muscular, they can do any mission for you.
Yeah, this goes back to us, the youth. Being a youth is a privilege, and then you're added on another chance of leading. I'm going to be open to you. One thing everyone can regret as a youth leader is to join politics, as they say. But me, I see politics as an advantage on adding, on ministering and serving as an example to my fellow youth. Then the other leaders, let you be questioned. Whatever you're doing today is going to be paid back to you. As a young politician, back in Rubaga, they called me Little Mayor. But whatever you portrait is going to be replicated back in the community. We have a bad chance that most of our politicians are bad examples. Politics, a wise man once told me it is like a match, a football match. First half is where you see the campaign, the whatever contesting and what hearing manifestos. Then the second half, or the break to the second half, is the election time. The second half is the actual serving time. So where do you follow? Are you going to follow into these hooliganism who throw stones and who abuse? Youths, stop being used. This is our age to do developmental work, to be productive. But if you engage into unnecessary activities, it is going to spoil your name. It is going to take you anywhere. We are aging. This is a transition. You're looking at us. The community, the government is looking at you. Are they going to appoint you as an RDC because you're throwing stones? Are they going to appoint you as a PS because you're throwing stones? Then this goes back to the schools. When we went to school in my time, they were also responsible. What kind of character are we giving back to the community? By this time, it is money. Have you paid fees? If you smoke weed, none of their business.
As long as they know it's a first class, it's a first grade.
Yeah, it's a first grade. But do they even follow up? Do even parents get time of the child to father, child to mother time? How was school? How was, what is hard? Where do you need my help? The parent pays fees, that is it. The community, the teacher comes in class, the syllabus is done, that is it. There is need to follow up on our fellow students, on our fellow youth.
So follow-ups, that is in the education sector. Afande Katumba, now here I want to bring you on one of the other causes that we see today why youth have been involved in crime, which is drug abuse. And one counselor was telling me that they believe police haven't done much. He says, Robert, tell me any drug and I won't freely bring it to you. And you want to tell me police doesn't know these areas? He told me, look around, people chewing kada, mairunji, you know? And even police, he says that, yet this is one of the things that compromises their understanding. That many of them end up committing crimes they wouldn't have committed in case they're not taking these substances. But they are readily available anytime, anywhere you can get them in this country. Why aren't you enforcing this? What is stopping police from being effective in ensuring that those are not supposed to access, actually these drugs don't access our markets? It is everywhere. In any community, you look for marijuana, there is someone making it there, drying it there, planting it in rural areas.
I would wish to be specific on the issue of drugs. As Kato Police Division, we've tried to apprehend criminals who are using drugs. Last week we even had an operation that side of Ndeva. We arrested a number of them and we took them to court. To the biggest challenge, usually when they are taken to court, the penalty is sometimes we get disappointed in court. They give them community service. They can give them community service and they tell them to, they get a number of them and tell them, beginning from next week, you're going to go to Katwa and you clean at the station, then you'll come back to court and you clean, then at around 3 you go home. So they will do that for a week. So when someone does that, he will be like, that means I can take again drugs, and I'm given just some small reprimand, and I go back. So the person will make it a habit. Will make it a habit. You will know that when I'm arrested, I'll be taken to court. Then court tells me to go to Katwa and do community service in the village. Then I what? So at the end of the day, it will be hard for that person to leave drugs. Yes? But we keep on arresting them. So it is a point of you arrest, they recycle them, then they come back. You arrest, they recycle them, they come back. I think the law has to at least pinch. When we arrest them at least, because we usually arrest them with evidence. We usually arrest them with evidence. You arrest them with you go and get them with those drugs, and you take them to court. A police officer makes a statement as an arresting officer. Yes, that is all we need. But when you need more evidence of someone who has seen him taking it, at the end of the day, it will be very hard to reprimand someone. Yes. So the evidence of a police statement, the one who was the arresting officer, and the evidence of the drugs is enough. But sometimes when you take them there, they can even tell you that the person can give a statement saying, me, I was in my house sleeping and they arrested me. What if you're in your house? What if you're in your house and the drugs were there? Yes? We arrested you, you had the drugs. You are keeping the drugs in the house for what? Fine, if you are not consuming them, then we shall charge you of receiving and retaining. You were having drugs in your house. How would you begin saying that you are not a criminal? Yes.
Well, we just hope that can be worked on so that we can have these people get deterrent punishments. Now, Mutabazi, how best can we reduce this? It's very hurting. Statistics are not favoring us very well, because whenever I see a youth involved in crime, and more so when they are convicted and sentenced, you know, I think of how many wasted years they are going to spend. Yes, I know our prisons, our Uganda Prison Services, do very much with reforming people and all that, and their rate of reoffender becomes less. But how do we reduce? We may not have completely a crime-free society, but how do we reduce youth involvement in committing crime?
It is a two-way, or it cuts across the community, the leaders, mostly the leaders, and these are political leaders. I would say politicians, there is time for politics, then there is time for service. And again, it goes back to the youth. What are you for? What priority are you having in life? You know, we have an era of youths who are mixed, who have mixed priority. I want to be an engineer, I want to be a hawker, I want to be a doctor, as it was back in primary. You remember primary, they used to tell you, what do you want to be? I want to be a pilot. The next day, if they give you a sweet, I want to be a teacher. What are you for? What priority do you for? Can you focus on one thing? Can you achieve it? Can you measure it? Then before you engage into crime, do you know the penalties you're going to face? Then if we go back to our leaders, what are we portraying? The politician mostly. Because they use us. Me, I'm a culprit. I won't mention the name, but I'm a culprit. I thank God that I was reformed, and that is why I joined politics, to see that I serve in a different perspective. I was a culprit in Nyonyintono. I hit a policeman with a brick because I was being influenced by a politician. They imprisoned me for 3 weeks. No one looked for me. But when I was there, I told the guy who had detained me that, you know what, when you leave me, I'm going back to school. I'll never do this again. And from that day onwards, I've changed. So, fellow youths, before you do any crime, before you engage into any crime, first look at the outcomes, then into that outcome, what is the benefit of you being in prison? What is the benefit of you wasting 2 months in prison and being characterized with that one is a prisoner, that one went to prison, that one is a drug abuse addict. And lastly, if I'm to mention about drug abuse, that sentence has 2 words, drug and abuse. Who are the most persons that do drug abuse? You find out that these are youths. Why do they do drug abuse? One, peer pressure. Another thing, it is, again, community. Parents. You find a parent smoking cigar in front of their children. And remember, our mind are still immature. They are growing. I would want to also experience, how do I feel like when I'm passing out that smoke through my nostrils, through my mouth? It goes back also to the community.
Community and parents. Well, Afande Katumba, in the interest of time, let me get your final remarks regarding our topic, which is youth in the fight against crime.
Thank you. When we alter on the issue of leaders, usually the challenge we are having these days, leaders opt for violence in line with getting what they want. Yes, for him, he thinks that if I want to be a leader, or if I want to be an MP of an area, I need to resort to these violent methods to see that I get where I am. So when the youth looks at that, will think that if you want to get to this, you need to use violent methods to what? So at the end of the day, a youth person may copy that if I want to be an MP, I need to get hooligans, beat people down there, then I get to what? So at the end of the day, when he opts for politics also, he will want to use that method. So at the end of the day, he will be arrested and taken to what? And taken to court. Then my colleague, the youth leader, talked about that issue of community. We all come from the community. That is a very big aspect in life, which we cannot run away from. The upbringing. Yes? The kid will copy those behaviors of the parents. Once the parents are using bad methods of bringing up children, the child will copy those bad methods. So at the end of the day, it is the community that will suffer. So I urge youth out there, you can get where you want, yes, but you will not get where you want in the shortest period of time. Wealth is accumulated by hard work and working. Yes, you need that hard work, and you will not do the hard work and you get it in the shortest period. Like you've planted your seeds, you need them to grow. Then after some specific time you will harvest. You cannot plant them, then after 2 days and you harvest them.
Very strong message for the youth there. Well, you have a bright future, but do not mess it with crime. But also to police, Mutabazi has brought in an element of some politicians that use these youth, or youth think that violence is the way actually to get to these places. I've had politicians campaign and ask others, Mustruggle Walirudawa, Feba to Siva. We were arrested, you know, we did this, and they are proud of these funny things that they did. And maybe some young, the youth think you have to commit them. But Wafande Katumba, of course, you are winding up, but this is a message to you. What then annoys me so much, you come, you pick these politicians, drive them around town, take them back to their home, yet the young youth are arrested. They go to Ruzira, they go to Chitalia, and the politicians tomorrow come back and commit the same offenses. Well, that is food for thought. Ruben is here. Take us through sports. Have a lovely day.
Welcome back from that short break, of course, away from the Afande and Robert and the GMU agenda. I'm here to give you sports. It's a beautiful Monday morning. Somehow I can see through the glasses here or the window that the sun is way up. And on a special way, I want to send my condolences to the people who died due to floods in Mbale. I know this situation has not been the best, and everybody who's concerned is working around the clock to make sure that some lives are saved, some bodies are retrieved. And of course, we pray that all the families that have been affected, may the Almighty God comfort you. And of course, you know, life is like that. Today you have it, tomorrow you don't have it. You can't predict what tomorrow has. You never know. As I speak to you here, I might go in and be knocked down. And he said, Ruben, talked to us yesterday and he's no more. So I'm sure our people, our brothers in Imbare, we are praying with you. We know it's not an easy situation, but with the prayers, we shall manage whatever is coming up. Anyway, but I'll start. Of course, we had Community Shield. That's the curtain raiser of the Premiership that will be starting next weekend. Of course, on Friday, we shall be having Arsenal against Crystal Palace. So that will be the official start of the Premier League. But we had the Community Shield where Man City was beaten by 3